Thomas, happy Thursday.
Friday Eve, podcast Thursday, Mountain Dew recovery. You name it.
The Mountain Dew recovery has been brutal. I tell you, I guess when you get older, it's harder to recover from things like that, and I'm not bouncing back like I used to. I guess I
can't do caffeine. Period.
I consumed way more than I should have this week.
You went yesterday from I'm out of Mountain Dew to I just drank a case of Mountain Dew, and then
it was a bad week for a channel named Recovery Addict. This is not my proudest moment. I don't think. It got me through in a pinch, but I'm definitely paying the price now. So,
but you made it. You're here, so I understand you didn't get a full on nap, but you got to go outside, relax, and hang out with Pickles, aka Kiki the cat. Is that right?
Yes. Pickles got in a fight last night.
No.
I think he won because there's fur that's not Pickles all around, because Pickles sleeps in a heated cat house, and because he's spoiled by you guys, and it was like 11:30 at night, and we've got a wooden deck, and we hear this. Just like, and I'm like, I think it was a raccoon. I don't know. It was, but Pickles does not have a scratch on him, and there's fur everywhere that's not his color of fur. So I think he won, and so I'm happy about that. I've got a winning cat. I mean, how many people can say they have a winning cat?
You're gonna have to nickname him Rocky. Yes. Adam Nusky -Reed. Great reminder early on as the show gets going. Membership giveaway. As a new month starts, the podcast or the channel itself has the luxury of giving away 10 memberships. So
I forgot how I did it last time.
So tune in next week for your chance to win.
I'm getting there. We're let's see, live me.
As he works on that, we've got lowercase says yay for Pickles. That's right. And if I recall, Pickles has some big front claws, as you've stated. So odds are in Pickles' favor.
Fangs. No, yes, the claws. I was actually worried that he was going to use the claws on me because he's not the most coordinated cat, and he tends to fall off things like me when he jumps up on my lap. He's like, he doesn't realize that the legs curve, and towards one side it's further down, and he back end goes off, and then he's like hanging on with the front, and he just digs in. It's like eagle talons.
Right.
Oh, but we didn't come here to talk about cats, though. Today, well, let me focus on this for just a second and see if I can figure out how to give some memberships away here.
Okay, as we get ready to gift the membership. So, for those of that know and have been watching the streams this week, we have a special guest. My good friend Roy. He's just a street over here in the neighborhood, and as I'm watching the radar, we have severe weather in the area. So if we surprised Scott during sound check of, hey, there's a good chance both your co-hosts could lose power mid-show, and you're on your own. And he said, well, great. I don't really have a plan B. So at any given moment, our power could go out, and as you're all used to having Scott solo all day, you might end up with that on the podcast tonight. So if we vanish, that's why. It's because there's weather in the area, and
the show will abruptly end. Is what I'll play the music and I'll say thanks. It was great, you guys. We'll just try again next week. That's how it's going to go.
Early out. Let's see. Paula MC says, does that mean we have to be in our best or in our good behavior? No, because he's retired, so he's beyond corporal punishment in the educational system. So it's all fair.
Bring it back. This is something I'll ask him. Let's we've teased it long enough. Let's bring Roy in. He's been waiting in the green room. So
hello,
Roy, welcome.
Hey Scott, I'm sorry. I have a hard time focusing. I'm still trying to get the heated cat house out of my imagination. So what does that mean? I'm sorry, my mind went sideways when you said that. So I apologize.
I have not owned a pet in my entire adult life. We had a pet when I was a child, and I never knew what went into that. I never cared for it. I mean, I pet it, but that was it. But a cat adopted us a couple months ago, and chat has been helping us. This community's been helping us, and they've been sending things. You need this, you need that. like within a week, I had like a cat lounge where the cat lays, and he loves it. And I've got this heated cat house. Literally, it has like a warmed bed that's a little flaps on both sides. It's like a dog house, but for cats, a little smaller. I've got everything a cat could want. My cat has, and so a cat house. I've got a cat house. I think I figured out how the gifting works. Sorry, I'm a squirrel moment here as I'm going back to this. I think I have to do it through my computer.
It's okay. While you do that, so Roy, welcome to the show. So glad you've been here, or that you're here. For those that have followed throughout the week, but those that have not, I will put it in chat. So Roy is a friend of mine who lives just a street over that way, and he has been, ever since I've known him, he's been a principal, but recently retired. And one day, walking down the sidewalk, he had mentioned, after actually watching our show, which is crazy because I didn't think anyone did, he said he started YouTube. And I checked out his channel. He said, "Yeah, I just started. It's just something to keep me busy and to do." And I pulled up, I think you had 2 videos in your first week, and they're great. They're animated like an awesome Saturday morning cartoon. You perform the anime, or the narration behind it, and you tell true stories from Tales of a Principal's Office, which I think is so awesome. You really downplayed it when you said, "Yeah, I'm just dabbling." And there's a lot of viewers in chat that have said they've pulled them up, they've watched them, and they love them, and they're great.
Well, I think you're being way too generous, frankly. I had 2 videos, and I think my wife and I were the only subscribers to the channel. And thanks to you, I have I'm practically viral. I have 247 subscribers now, and you're responsible. I feel like some kind of a project you've taken on, like maybe like the cat. Maybe I'll get a heated cat house or something out of the deal.
It's not the most comfortable place to sleep, but when there aren't any other options, I would say you might consider it. Before we go any further, I'm going to gift the 10 memberships because I said we do it at the beginning, and I want to be a man of my word. There's the first 5 going out right now, and I'm going to follow it immediately by another 5, so that the 10 are flowing as we speak.
Wonderful. Congratulations to Joe, Ohio, Erica 843. I can't read. Mini Duck, Maxine Counts, Pam Coggins. The following 5, it just jumped. Here we go. Goes to Robin Noel, Jayhawk Jen.
I think Pam was just a comment in there. We had Robin Noel, Jayhawk Jen, Ohio Palm Mom, Rachel Esser, Birds in Flight, and man, this is hard. And Melissa Ann. Thank you. Now we've got that away. We've got that out of the way. We did our monthly giving. Wash our hands of that. Roy, you're mentioning a charity project. Not so at all. This channel, we've always loved finding people who just do amazing things and maybe are just flying under the radar. And as soon as Thomas sent me a link and I watched it, I started listening to those. I'm like, hey, this is cool. This is something that I can get behind. And I saw quality immediately. And so I just wanted to get in early before you got so big that you wouldn't, spend time with us if we invited you on the podcast.
Yeah, that's it. I have that worry myself. It's keeping me awake.
Yeah.
So for Roy, you may not know this, but so Scott and his wife, they've got quite a few children, and they go the homeschool route. So they're tied into that realm of education and their knowledge of public education, the private sector, as well as homeschool. So when he saw your video, it hit to home with the stories and how things kind of jived. And so I'll tell you, Scott, he does promote people that he just out of the kindness of his heart, but he will do it if he sees something he likes and enjoys and is on board with. So he has been promoting your channel on his daily show for about a week and a half now. Just non-scripted, not asked for. He's just been doing it on his own, which it's been really cool. And there's been a lot of positive feedback from those in chat that have watched your videos and said, "Hey, they're great. We love watching them." So what made you decide to do that? We'll get back into where you came from and what you did prior, but when you came out of what you did, what made you go, "Hey, I'm going to go YouTube"?
Well, on my channel, I think I explained that we have, when I say we, I mean my teachers and me have said for years we ought to write a book because crazy stuff would happen. and you might write it down, or you might, store it away in your memory. And the fact of the matter is, I don't have either the vocabulary or the patience to write a book, but I do sort of like dabbling with this, medium, whatever it is, and the YouTube stuff. So, we just found a happy medium, something that, like I said, keeps me off the street and out of trouble. I hope, for a while anyway. But I have to apologize to you, Scott, since Thomas is local. I can actually show my, my gratitude a little bit better to him than I am to you, because I can't. It's easy for me to give you a gift or something.
Oh,
So,
we just love that you're on the show. Honestly, we're super excited. I think what you're doing is amazing. I'm intrigued by it because my own experiences in the principal office have not been good. I guess is what I could say from when I was in school myself. I think when my principal retired, he had me in mind as the reason why he was retiring early. I think I really did cause that. I was not the best student. I was probably one of the worst. Come to think of it, but
I think that's probably where most of us come from. It's a wonder, or it's funny how people end up doing what they're doing. But having been in education for almost 3 decades, there's more than one teacher or principal that I'd like to go back and apologize to. Said, "Oh, now I understand. I really am sorry." But
if I could, I'd apologize to you, so you can vicariously accept the apology on behalf of all the principals and teachers that I put through hell as I went through school. I know, I can tell you, I know that one teacher got fired because of me, and she deserved it. Okay, she deserved it. We won't go into that story, but another one did retire because I made her mad. I made her just like up here. I was too much for her. I did everything from no homework, but I was literally could ace the class. And so what she was giving out candy bars every time, to the top person. And so I didn't want to do anything, and I wouldn't take the test. And then when she was giving out candy bars, I said, "Oh, I'm going to ace the test." So I aced the test, and she had to give me a candy bar. Well, that stopped the candy bar program that day. And I'd cross my eyes at her like this. I'd sit there the whole day and just sit and look. I can hold that position forever. And she's like, "Is there something wrong with your eyes, Scott?" I'm like, "No, is there something wrong with yours?" And I was too much for her. So please accept my apology on to all educators for what I put them through. I'm sorry. But back to principal. Did you always want to be a principal, or what was your goal as a kid? What was your dream job?
My dream job, when I grew up, I thought, you know what? At some point, I'm going to be taller and bigger and heavier and older, and I'm going to wear a suit every day. That was as far as my goals were. I was going to put a suit on and go to work because for whatever reason, that was a cool thing for me. So to justify that, I was a stockbroker for many years, and I hated it. And I wandered into a school one day, and I'm trying to work with this principal of this school, ironically, about some investments. And we got to talking. He said, "You know what? I need a computer teacher." So that was like a Wednesday. Well, Friday I came back and talked to him, and on Monday I'm a teacher. So
you might not get this joke, but you could have been an armorer as well, apparently. Just a little too soon.
But anyway, that first day I was at a parochial school here in Wichita Falls. They've since bulldozed it, but the first day I'm there, I'd spent the weekend getting their computers set up, and I'm a teacher. I got no idea, I'm just these little 6th graders show up into my class, and to finish this story of the first day of me teaching, let me go back 50 years. Has it been 50 years? Pretty close. In the late 70s. I'm that same sort of irreverent and troubling student in a class. Mine was typing. And in our typing class, had manual typewriters in a room with asphalt or concrete floors and brick walls. So it just reverberated in there. And the teacher would go out, I'm sure, to smoke a cigarette, because that's what they did back in the late 70s, and leave us in there. And I would organize the elephants hitting one key at a time, boom, bump, all 30 kids in there. And then all the other teachers would lose their mind, and the teacher would finally come back. Well, the other thing, and the thing that got me, well, that leads to this story, and for me actually remembering it, was there on these manual typewriters, we could do something that the boys referred to as the broad trick. And essentially it meant reaching around behind the manual typewriter and unhooking this strap. And when it did, it sounded like a watch spring and all that kind of stuff. And it made all kinds of noises, and the typewriter wouldn't work anymore. So
I feel like you and Scott are related.
I'm thinking back to my own typing class, and we had a mix of typewriters as well. So keep going.
My teacher, God bless her, I owe her so many apologies. She left, and she comes back, and this noise like thundering hooves going through the school has been reverberating off the walls. She walks in the door, looks at me, and goes, "Roy, what are you doing?" Well,
she knew.
And I said, and I quote, and I apologize, I hope I don't offend anybody. I said, "Miss Adair, this typewriter sucks." And as soon as it escaped my lips, as the words wafted away, and her smile on her face was like, the Cheshire Cat, because she knew and I knew that I was toast. In our little small school in 1977, you didn't say that. The next thing I know, I'm in a blue Buick. The principal's taking me home. They've thrown me out of school.
They can't do that nowadays either.
No, we
the
don't.
Principal doesn't give rides to anybody.
We don't do anything.
Takes one to know one.
She got me home. She didn't say a word to me. She went up there. My mother and grandmother, we lived in a little town out in the middle of nowhere. She knocks on the door, says something to my grandmother. My mother's at work. I get out of the car, and I believe it's a Friday, and I'm allowed to come back to school, I don't know, first part of the next week. But my mom and my grandmother, they beat me like a rented mule. They hit me. They swatted me. My grandmother's like, "You embarrass us. You throw," it was terrible. By the time I
shamed the family.
Yeah, I've shamed, so by the time it's time to go back to school, I can't wait to go back to school. Said, "Send me back to school." And they beat me. It was unmerciful. Well, anyway, fast forward to my first day at school, the parochial school. I'm there, and these little sixth graders, and we're trying to get these computers to work so I can teach them typing. All as ironic as that is. And this little
circle,
some little guy, little sixth grader, about that big, not very big. Anyway, I'm leaning over his shoulder, and he goes, "Mr. Teacher, this computer sucks." I thought, "Oh Lord, kid, no, they're going to kill you. You're not very big." So that was my introduction into teaching on the very first day.
Wow, karma came back around then.
Full circle.
That is amazing.
It's ugly.
Amazing.
So to back up just a little bit, the relationship Roy and I have. So we live, as I've mentioned, a street over. We've got a lake, another street over, which is a glorified pond. And Roy and I both love to fish. Scott's a big fisherman as well. When we're off air,
why are you commenting about my size?
No. Yeah. What, Roy? When we're off air, you can ask him about his date with his wife ice fishing, and we'll
didn't go well. Didn't go well. You don't want to know.
But so we just bumped into each other time and time again fishing, and we enjoyed it, and we're there. And his wife walks their dog around the neighborhood quite often, so we run into her and got to chat with her, and so we slowly got to know each other over time, and here we are. So that's how the friendship kind of started. And then knowing he was a principal, and like I said, YouTube channel starting recently. And what really kind of triggered this show tonight was Roy had mentioned he might check our show out a time or two, and it was, I don't know, a week or two ago. I was out front washing my car or something, and he's on the other side of the street walking, and he just yells over, "You're crazy. Raspberry flavored Pop-Tarts are the best." And so For those of you that watched our show, and there was a big debate on Pop-Tart eating and how to do it, and what's the best. So that cued me in on he had watched the previous show, and so it kind of triggered it from there. So we then started talking about the podcast and this and that, and then Scott started promoting his channel on your daily show, and the subscriber count grew. And day before yesterday, I walk out of my porch and there's a giant box of Pop-Tarts with a fresh thing of butter waiting for me as a thank you for the boost of his channel. So
That is
that's,
awesome.
and
That
here
is
we are. So incredible. It's so
Save
so
the
fun.
wrappers for the Eclipse. So
We
so
bought glasses.
okay, so you can watch the Eclipse.
Yes, we bought glasses.
I don't want you to burn your eyes.
That's
That is
right.
really cool. That's really, I'm excited. I tell you, Roy, as you're telling stories about being a principal, it's triggering. I don't know. It's probably, it puts me in therapy, I think, but it triggers events that happen. I'm remembering things like when the teachers sort of be like, for a principal, if the teachers union is like, oh, today we quit just for today. I remember showing up after first period in 7th grade, the teachers all walked out, and it was just kids. It was like they literally, when they walked out, they left. And I guess there was, some pay issues or contract issues that were supporting. Did you ever have?
You sure it wasn't just role model issues?
It might have been. It might have been. Did you have any of your stories where you've got like nightmare teachers, or hopefully don't involve law enforcement on that front? But
yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm maybe tomorrow or Saturday, I've got a story about one of the nightmare teachers that I had several years ago. You know what? I'm not going to tell that story because I want you to watch
we'll
the
watch
video.
it on the channel for sure.
But
tease it
yeah,
just
there's
a bit.
one of the things that I have asked myself over and over and over about teachers, because they're adults, and they sometimes make decisions that I couldn't wrap my head around. And then they would do something very stupid, and then my problem would be, because moving forward it was difficult to trust. I'd have trust issues, and I'd say, what other stupid things are they doing
I'm not hearing about
that I don't know about?
Repeat offender.
I remember.
What is your?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I was going to say, what is your proudest moment as a principal? What's the memory you look back on and say, that's what I did it for. That's my.
I remember about 20 years ago. I taught computer classes, and I taught how to use Microsoft Word and teaching typing and whatever. And that whole thing has grown a great deal over the last 20 years, what computer classes are. But this is early on. And one of the exercises I would have students complete would be a thank you letter. And the point of the exercise was to format a letter. But I would I would ask them to write a letter to a teacher or an aunt or a kin or somebody, thanking them for something. And then we would type it, and they would format it a certain way. And I would actually have them mail it, because I just thought it was a good exercise. And it might be the first and the only time they ever mailed a letter in their lives. So, but I had done this for 4 or 5 years. And usual suspects, the coaches got letters, and maybe the principal had got letter, or their aunt or grandmother or somebody. But one year I got a letter from one of the students in the class, and I still have it. And she wrote this letter to me, said that I was her favorite teacher, and that in her class, or in my class, I should say, she didn't feel stupid or put down or put upon or embarrassed or those kinds of things. And you look back and you go, well, I didn't do anything overt, but at the same time, it's kind of a proud moment. Somebody recognizes you for what you're doing. And, I wasn't trying to impress anybody, but she wrote that letter, and a year or two later, she'd moved, and I'm telling more than I should probably, but I got an email from her. And she had made a poor choice or two, and had asked me what I thought she should do. And I said, you know what? And I had 2 or 3 other teachers come in to witness. I said, what do you think we should tell this? I'm not going to ignore it. That doesn't seem appropriate. So I wrote her back. I said, your parents love you, and you need to come clean with what you did, and y'all need to work it out. You don't need to hide it. And like I said, the other teachers, it's a no-win situation. Anyway, it turned out really well. She wrote me a thank you later, and I've never heard from her since, but I still have that letter where she told me I was her favorite teacher, which is pretty cool.
That's really cool.
That's awesome. I have to ask though, on the second letter she wrote, did she format it correctly as far as spacing?
I'm telling you, when they come, when a 16-year-old girl comes to you and says, I went to a party and I did some things I'm not supposed to, and I'm afraid my parents are going to whatever.
Formatting doesn't matter.
That's not my expertise.
Wow. That is a neat story. I imagine there are probably many that didn't say anything that probably felt the same way as well. A lot of times one person talks and 10 people agree. So
yeah,
I used to teach in my business classes when I taught computer classes. At the end of the year, we'd do some life kinds of stuff, different things that I knew that maybe they weren't learning at home. And I'd haul them all out there and we'd change a tire. This was last week or two. We'd be finished with the curriculum, but we'd go out there and we'd pull a tire off my pickup and we'd change it. And I'd make the girls in the class get their hands dirty. And then every student that went through that class learned to tie a tie, Windsor, four in hand, or something around their neck. And they had to learn to tie it on themselves. And more importantly, to tie it on somebody else, because as parents, it was a skill. And I can't tell you how many of them students would come up to me and go, Mr. Roy, I remember that was the thing I remember was you're teaching us to tie a tie. And I'm thinking, we did spreadsheets, we did Word, we did pictures, we did this. Oh yeah, you remember how to tie a tie. Thank you. The left-handed comment. Yeah. Well, anyway,
real life stuff.
Yeah.
They use it more than the spreadsheet.
They're probably so.
100%. So that brings up two things for me. One of which, have you seen the video of, there's actually a police officer. There's dash cam footage. He pulls over, it's somewhere in the East Coast. He pulls over a young man for speeding, and he is headed to school, a college, I believe. And he ends up pulling into his college parking lot. And as the cop pulls behind him, he says, "Hey, I pulled you over for speeding." The young man steps out and he says, I'm late for a presentation. And I want to say Pennsylvania. And the officer says, "Okay, well, you still can't be speeding, here." And the young man, he gets out, he's in a suit, but he's disheveled. He's not well put together yet. And he says to the officer, "Yeah, I gotta figure out how to tie this tie." The officer says, "You don't know how to tie your tie?" And it's a big burly officer in the wintertime, because he's got a toboggan on, or a toque, wherever you're from, whatever you call it, and all his big gear. And the young man says, "No, I don't know how to tie a tie." So he stops the young man and, "Here, turn around." And so he ties the tie on himself first, but gets it to the right, puts it on, and then he puts it around the student and buttons him up, and then says, "Quit speeding," pops his collar and says, "Good luck on your get out of here, go." I thought it's so wholesome. I thought it was so cool. Your tie story reminded me of that, and where I think it's really neat and why it's important to learn how to tie a tie for others.
It is, especially moms tie it on their son or whatever.
Yeah.
And I have, I'd line them up at graduation, and I wouldn't let them go out until I'd check their ties and make sure they weren't on cockeyed or, look like a ball of bacon or something. So
I have a confession. I cannot tie a tie on another person. I have to tie it on myself. I can tie the tie and take it off, sort of leave it mostly attached and slip it over my head, and then they can wear it. But I cannot, my brain can't do that whole mirror image thing. It's if I'm looking at it from the other side, it doesn't
do it
work.
all day long. You do the mirror image all day long on
camera. I flip it on my screen, so it makes sense for me.
I did too. I mirrored mine because it used to point this way and that way, so I get it.
Yeah,
that's funny. So, Roy, I've got a scenario for you.
Uh-huh.
I don't have quite as many school stories, but I have one that if you were the principal of my school,
you should get SWATs. I've already decided.
I'm moving tomorrow.
Corporal punishment. We're bringing it back.
House is for sale. No, this wouldn't be me actually. I would have been the victim. But what would you have done if you were the principal of my school and I reported this scenario? So I had a gym class teacher who I got along with tremendously. Coach G, Gabriel. He's still there. Actually emailed him just this year. He's still there. And 20 years ago, believe it or not. And uh, he was always trying to recruit me to go play for the high school football team because he was the high school football coach, but I never could because those in chat know I was playing hockey at the time, and if I got hurt playing football, then hockey was over and blah 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 blah. He became my like health sciences teacher in sixth period, and my senior year we had such a good rapport. We were like best friends. He was not. I didn't view him. I viewed him as a teacher because he was older, but it was a different dynamic. One day in class, we get into a debate about something, and I forget what it is, and it turns into a full-fledged wrestling match between me and Coach G. Physically, we are wrestling. I'm trying to take him down as hard as I can, and he is trying to take me down as hard as he can. And he obviously wins. He's bigger, stronger, and he's got that strength, and he's smarter. He flips me over. I mean, we're displacing desks and everything. My necklace, I used to wear a necklace with like a cross or something my senior year. It breaks off. I'm getting tossed around like a little goat. And it was all fun and games. I wasn't offended. I stood up after he proved his point, and we hugged and we laughed and high-fived. And I look back at the class and there's desks toppled everywhere. And so he and I go and pick up the desks and kind of put them back in order and just sit back down. And we had about 20 minutes left of class, and on we went. It was awesome experience because I felt so cool to get to wrestle with Coach G, almost get a real, like, it's almost like a real fight. But what if I really got offended, or I told my parents bragging about it, and then they called in a complaint? What, put yourself back in 2004. What would your recourse have been for Coach G in a situation like that?
Well, the 20 years ago, it's way different. It is
Right.
maybe last year. Last year, well, we'll revisit that in a second. 20 years ago, it would have been bring the teacher into the office and say, "Don't be a knucklehead. You know better than that."
Right.
And you better pray nobody complains about it. And then tomorrow, tell the class that it was all planned. I don't care. Make it go away.
Okay.
But this year, there's a number of things that are going on. First of all, a teacher put their hands on a student. You scared some people in the room. You, tore up some of the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone makes a complaint, and that's part of the reason I retired, there's no common sense in that. There's a whole sort of process you have to go through. You would get in trouble. The principal or you, or whoever it was, the teacher, I should say, would have to go back and talk to every parent, or at least the ones that were complaining.
Mm-hmm.
If they came and complained to me, I would tell the parent, look, it's none of your business what goes on between the teacher and me, because that's private. But you have to understand that, yes, I'm in charge of the school and I will deal with it. And I'm afraid you'd be reprimanded. There's no question about it. You wouldn't have any choice but to be reprimanded at least a little bit, because, it's just inappropriate. You can't wrestle kids in the middle of class. You can't touch kids. That's the other thing.
Right.
Putting your hands on a student is a big, bad no-no. A friend of mine, he retired, and it's been several years ago, but he was just a band teacher. And the kid was just being a goofball. And after class, he gets the kid, had him by the arms. He said, "You've got to stop this." And the kid leaves. Well, he didn't think anything about it. Well, the kid went off and raked a big old bunch of skin off of one of his arms, and came back and showed his parents and said, "This is what the teacher did." Well, whenever the story came out, he goes, "Well, did you touch that kid?" Well, yeah, I mean, I just had him by the shoulders trying to get his attention.
And just a little.
He said, "Well, you should see what you did to him." And he's going, "Are you kidding me? I'm not even that strong. I play the trumpet, for crying out loud." So anyway, it was toward the end of the year, and he said, I'm gonna, there's gonna be a problem here. He said, "No, there's not gonna be a problem. I'm just gonna quit. You'll either support me or you won't." He said, "Well, I don't have a choice." But that's the part of it right now that if somebody came to me and said, would you recommend I went into teaching or something? I would probably tell them no. The kind of stuff where people sort of arbitrarily are accused of things, or I guess 30 years ago the pendulum has swung way far the other direction. 30 years ago there were no checks and balances. Now when I quit, I wouldn't let anyone come into my office unless there was at least one other adult. And I was thinking about installing a camera,
Yeah.
because anytime somebody came into the office, especially if they were in trouble, by the time I reheard the story, there's no telling what I might have done. So that's the reason I always had, especially, young ladies, I would make a secretary or a teacher, somebody come in there and witness it to make sure that, somebody didn't make up some kind of insane story about me.
I always got a CYA, because you never know what somebody's going to do.
Always. So Roy, you actually kind of directed me into a question I had for you a little bit later, but it's a great segue. It's kind of a two-part question, but you already answered it. One of them was what kind of advice do you have for someone wanting to get into education? If anyone here's watching the show, or if they have young adult children getting in that realm, whether it's teacher, principal realm, but you already said don't. So I'm gonna bunny hop into part two, and it's kind of the reverse. What advice would you give to parents currently that are having issues with certain school leadership, whether it's whatever it might be, if it's with their student in particular, whether it's bullying that they're facing over and over and they're not getting resolved, whatever it might be. But as an educator and as a leader in that realm, what advice would you give to parents that are struggling with finding resolutions for whatever issues they're having?
Well, there's no easy answer, especially bullying, because bullying is just almost a spectrum. It's everything from somebody calling somebody an ugly name to what traditionally has been bullying, people hurting another person. But the biggest problem with bullying is that electronic bullying, where they've got one of these things, and everybody is fearless and indestructible when they're punching in keys. But the parents need to understand that the school is obligated. If you complain about that sort of thing, the school is obligated to pursue an answer to it. And if you're not satisfied with the answer, they are, the parents have the whip hand in this deal. Until until you think they've covered this, then you send it up the ladder. As a principal, and I don't mean to get all somber, but as a principal, I had two students over the last decade or so that killed themselves. One in one school and one in another school. So it's a serious issue, and don't sweep it under the rug. I've had everything from parents that it was almost nothing and they just lose their minds, and then I'd have on the other end of the spectrum, I had parents who students were clearly showing issues and they were just sort of ambivalent about it. So if they've got issues, be vocal, be respectful, but be vocal. It's like my grandmother used to say, you get more bees with honey than vinegar, or however that goes. So, if you're going to go see the principal, be respectful, be articulate, don't go off half cocked. But if that doesn't help, or, you're going to actually have to start with the teacher first. But if that doesn't go to the principal. If that doesn't work, go above his head or her head until you've had some satisfaction. In my particular adult life, I've dealt with people's money and I've dealt with their kids. So I'm just a glutton for punishment. So
Right. I'm looking at this. I'm thinking a trip to your office, the principal's office. What was it like for someone? Tell us a little bit about maybe your decorations. Was there something you had in your office that was like it was like a prop that you would use frequently to instruct kids? Or
well, here's all that stuff you see there. That came out of my office. My office, for the last 10 or 15 years, the walls were covered. I had pictures of me, when I was like, I had one with doing a selfie of the Statue of Liberty. I had pictures of places where I'd traveled. I had all kinds of stuff in there. And my thought was, and I think it was accurate much of the time, if a student came in there and they're all amped up, or, lots of anxiety, or even a parent for that matter, but especially students, they come in there and they're in trouble, and, it's curtains or whatever. And they look around, they see stuff, and they might even ask me about it. I had the impression that maybe that lowered some of their anxiety. They came into the principal's office, and they have this sort of expectation that the principal is going to be mean, and he, wants to hurt them, or, jump down their throat or whatever. And I started that rumor, but that wasn't the case. So
it was useful. It was useful on one side, but
I started that rumor mostly for their parents. But when they came in there, we were just trying to work through whatever the issue was. And those little bodies and those little minds, they do some really squirrely stuff.
How many different schools did you work for?
I worked at 5 different schools over 28 years or whatever it was.
Can you name the mascot for each school?
I should be able to. Let's see. Trojan, Hornet, Buffalo, Duck, Mustang. Is that 5?
That's 5. That was 5. Yeah. We were the frogs. I don't know who chose frogs, but
it's pretty intimidating.
It wasn't even the horned frogs. It was just like the frog. I think we had like voted this. They let the school vote when I was in elementary school. They let the school vote, and we voted for like some mythical creature. And there was a big thing, you get to choose because we were a new school, and so we chose this mythical creature. It was like the griffin or something. It was something absolutely insane, and they're like, no, we can't be that. And so they went with frogs instead, which was a bit of a letdown for us. Pam, I'm sorry. I'm bullfrogs. That's nice. That's respectable. Bullfrogs. Everyone knows the bullfrog's the king of the frogs, but just the little frogs they get squished and nobody pays attention.
I saw somebody down the chat said, did anyone show up to my office on the first day of school? Yes, I actually remember some student twisted off the first day, and they're sitting in my office, and I stared at them for a full minute or two, and I said, what are you doing here? It's the first day of school. One of us has got to get a break here. Then I tossed him out and threw him back, made him go back to class. But yeah, I've seen him on the first day. Oh my goodness.
It's it's going to be a fun year when you know them on a first name basis by day 2.
Well, the frequent flyers, them, especially in a small school. I was at a school that had 550 kids, K through 12. So the school size, I don't know, 35 or 40 kids, maybe 120 kids or 150 kids in high school. So if you had 1 or 2 kids that were in trouble all the time, or if they just were perpetually had a bad attitude, they could affect the culture of the entire campus. If they were sick that day, we had teachers dancing in the hallway. It was like, oh yeah, they didn't show up today. But there seemed to be a correlation between the amount of trouble a student made and their attendance. It was always pretty much every day, all day long.
That's funny. So I've got a story that's going to lead into a question as well. My senior year in high school, we had to take a foreign language, and being in San Diego, a lot of Spanish speakers. So I chose to take French. Brilliant. I regret it to this day. It didn't work for me.
Pourquoi? Pourquoi?
Yeah. Why? And so so I took French, and I'll never forget this teacher for the rest of my life. He was amazing, Mr. Johnston. He was so incredible, but I was terrible with it, and I had to cheat off of Rachel. Bless her heart, she was amazing. She let me cheat off her all year long. And at the end of the year, because I was really lazy and I didn't turn in a lot of my work, I was facing failure in this class, which would mean I wasn't going to graduate if I didn't pass French. If I
Nice
didn't,
plan.
yeah, yeah. So I had to achieve a B plus on my final to bring up my grade average to pass, and I was full panic mode, didn't know what to do. So I crammed for, I don't know, 2 hours the night before for my final, I think.
A whole 2 hours. Wow.
2 hours.
What
And I walk in.
commitment.
Yes, and I walk in for the final, and all of the desks are separated like I've never seen before. So I am not cheating off of Rachel. She's not going to tilt her paper to let me see. And so I'm going, wow, I'm not graduating. This is a bummer. And so I go through the final, and I didn't feel terrible, but I did not feel B plus. And the way it worked, he had to grade all the papers, and the next day he would post it on the windows of what grades you got outside his classroom. And I walked up there the next day, and I got a 95% on my final. And I immediately walked into his class while he's teaching fourth period. He stops and looks, and I just said, "Can I have a word?" And he comes over, and I said, "Mr. Johnston, why did you do this for me?" And he says, "I didn't do a thing. You got you got the grade you got." And I said, no. I know me better than you know me. I didn't get a 95. What? Thank you very much. And he said, "I'm not kidding. I graded your paper 3 times because I didn't believe it myself. You got a 95 on your final." And I said, "Well, thank you so much." And I gave him a hug, and it was the most awkward hug in the world. So I was very vocal in all my classes. I like to talk a whole lot. I got shut down a lot because I was a nuisance, but I got along with my teachers. All my friends and family in my life are all a little bit older than me because I feed off an older crowd more so than my age. And so I literally thought I was socially promoted. That I walked away thinking that was social promotion. I did not believe I got a 95 on my test. In your experience, in your years, I believe social promotion was a real thing. Did you ever witness it or see it of kids who probably did not earn their grades to graduate, but they got promoted through socially? Was that a thing, or is that
Oh
not?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Confirms.
I'm
Thanks.
trying to think exactly how that conversation would normally
You didn't
go.
get the 95.
No, I did not get that 95. He did. He definitely social promoted it.
There was more than once, and anyway, more than once, I'd have a teacher come to me and say, "Look, this student who is a pain in the rear end is right on the edge." I said, "Is that right? So what are you asking me? Because it's illegal for me to tell a teacher to give them a grade."
Okay.
So they're looking for advice. So I'm full of advice. I'm full of it. So they would say and I had this conversation with more than one teacher. I said, "Look, occasionally you have to do what's best for you. And as a side note, it's also the best thing for the student.
Get rid of them.
So I would suggest you give them a round grade." And they'd go, "What's that?" I said, "You give them a grade so they're not around anymore." So
This is the conversation that went on with your teacher, your French teacher. The irony of Thomas now working in the translation business is not lost on me here.
Oh, no,
He failed French, and now he works in
no,
this
no,
field.
I passed it. I passed it.
Yeah, I believe you. I really do. That's funny. I always thought that I earned the grades that I got, but
No,
they're nothing to
turns out
brag
you're just
about.
cool.
Nothing to brag about at all. So,
Turns out you're just a nice guy.
yeah.
But Oh, that's crazy.
You know what? My sister, do you know how she passed French? She brought a bottle of wine to the teacher. I guess you can't do that nowadays, but we had a French foreign exchange student who came over, and his parents were very wealthy, and they like sent these gifts for them to give to the host family. And we don't drink wine. And so he brought this bottle, and it's like, I guess it was like, I mean, the way he held it, it must have been made out of gold or something. It was like it was old, and it was, I mean, had the dent on the bottom was big. I have no idea how you tell what wine is good or not. But my sister brought that to the French teacher, who always talked about how much he likes wine, and she got an A, and she's not very good at French at all. So I guess you do what you have to pass the class.
You 100% do. My freshman year, I was very zealous. I took algebra 2, and because I thought, oh, I killed it in 8th grade. I'm so good, and flunked. So I had to take summer school between freshman and sophomore year, math.
Summer school, buddy. I feel you.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm right there with you, except in college, I'm thinking, okay, I need to do something to get my GPA up. So I'm going to take history of the Old Testament. I'll take it in the church school thing across the street, and make friends with the people. I took it, and I had to pay for this out of my own pocket. I think I took it 4 times before I finally passed it, because I got a D the first time, and it was the only D I had in my transcript. And I took it again and dropped it. Took it another time, dropped it. Then finally got a B in there, and I'm going, oh my goodness, that didn't work out like I planned. So
Now I'm out. So my summer school experience, it was another coach, but I didn't know this coach. So our summer school, the first semester of summer school is 3 weeks. And so I showed up for the first 4 days with a breakfast burrito, and I gave it to the teacher. And on that 4th day, he said, hey, you don't have to keep buying my burritos, and you don't have to come back. You're good. And
that's
so
cheap. That's a great investment.
it was amazing. And I didn't tell my parents, because I was just like, no, I'm good. I'm going to school. And because I started school a little bit early, so I actually had my permit and I would drive. So I would just get up in the morning, and I would just go drive around town. I'd go to a friend's house, and I would just hang out, and I'd go home. I was at summer school, but he said, don't come back. You're fine. And
that is not fair. I worked my butt off in every single one of my summer school and night school classes so I could graduate, because I took it so easy during the regular day. But I didn't know there was another option.
Yeah, when I got to my first semi-pro hockey team, in the locker room, the coach had painted "Work smarter, not harder," which I know is not unique. A lot of people know that, but it was there, and I went, "Summer school, baby."
It might as well say, "I accept bribes," just across the top. It was the secret language for the students.
100%.
Scott, did your school, wherever you went, did they have corporal punishment? Well, swats, licks, whatever.
No. See, I graduated in 95, high school. Then I spent like a long time doing nothing, and then I went to college. And so when I went to college, I walked into my first class, and I never thought I was the professor, because I was the oldest person in the room.
He's here on the GI Bill.
Yeah, 20 years in. But no, I never got. There was no physical punishment. The closest I got was in 3rd grade. In 3rd grade, I had a teacher, and her name was Mrs. Angerbauer. I told this story. She's the one that passed around the lungs in a Ziploc baggie. I told that on the podcast the other night. But she's like, my name is Mrs. Angerbauer, because sometimes I get angry. And that I was terrified. I was like, I don't want to see this lady, because if I figured that she would like morph into a dragon or something. So I was pretty good in that class, but it didn't require any physical punishment to make that happen. But I think my parents, if I failed, would incentivize me suitably. So there were many report cards that for some reason were just never returned. I mean, some semesters they just didn't send out report cards to my house. I'm not sure if you guys had the same problem, where they just didn't make it home.
Yeah, we've had calls. When are you going to send the report cards? They went out last week. Sorry.
I just realized, Scott, with you saying that about your parents, my dad watches the show every once in a while, and I just said things I've never said before. So
family dinner's gonna be fun.
Dad, if you're watching, I'm sorry, but I did what I had to do. And look at me now. I'm on a Thursday night podcast. I've made it.
Dad's sitting there looking at that test. He's so proud of you. It says 95% Thomas in French. And he's thinking, all these years I've had this framed on my wall, thinking that my son had finally got it together. And really,
This is the show he's not watching.
was a pity grade.
Got to be the show he's not watching. It has to be. Moving fast forward. Nobody clip that. We're going to edit it when it goes to the repost. Scott, it's not happening. Roy, we're going to dive into a segment we do with a lot of our guests. It's just a quick rapid fire, and it's for the audience to get to know you a little bit more outside of just what you've done, where you come from, and where you are. So what it is, I'm going to ask you a quick question, really short, and you have like 2 seconds to pick or choose. That's all it is.
Be careful what you wish for.
No, they're very trust me.
The filters are off here.
Yeah.
We trust you.
Trust me. I keep them G-rated for that reason, so it doesn't get too wild. But let's see. I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about seven questions. It's real quick. It's just your preference, not related to what you do at all, just personal preference. So let me know when you're ready, and we will fire when ready.
This is just Roy, right? I'm gonna say I'm gonna eat. I've got some pickle flavored cotton candy that I'm gonna eat as I enjoy this. It's better than popcorn. Go ahead. It's actually not bad. It's not bad. Paula. Thank you very much.
All right, Roy, you ready?
Let's do it.
Your cold drink of choice.
Tea.
Hot dog or hamburger?
Hamburger.
Hot or cold?
Hot.
Principal or YouTuber?
YouTuber.
Your favorite season?
Spring.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Last but not least, your favorite podcast.
My favorite. This podcast. What are the not relevant podcast?
Right on the tip of your tongue.
It's
rolled off.
I can't even read it.
We're a big production here, so I got to throw a little line in the water and try to catch a little shout out when we can get one. So that's always the final question.
We're gonna clip this show down to that part of you saying this is your favorite part. That's gonna be the whole thing that's on YouTube. Everything else just gets edited out.
The fun part is
my biggest fear, though, of course, coming on here, that people would recognize or at least think, well, this guy's probably a moron. So my biggest fear is I would confirm their suspicions. That's my whole goal, is not to confirm their suspicions.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. It's been great. It's been absolutely awesome. And then I learned yesterday during our sound check, actually, that you and Scott have something in common. And it's you both have tinnitus.
What?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I hear something screaming at me. What is it?
Well, and so it made me wonder if you all have ever called the tinnitus hotline, or if it just kept ringing.
Oh, that was good.
It's still ringing. It's still ringing. It has a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
I was thinking, you were going to ask something technical. For some reason, I thought you were going to go nerdy. It's like, have you ever done like a frequency sweep and found out the exact pitch of the tinnitus in each ear? And I have. I can like tune it in. He's out. He's out.
No, you got technical. I'm out of here. Yeah, no.
Yeah, we occasionally do funny jokes. Before we can't end without a funny story. And I know you've got many. And honestly, you've saved a lot of your good ones for your channel, and we're cool with that. But give us a little insight. Things that made you smile. Just seem to make you shake your head and you say, this, no one would believe this unless they were here and saw it happen firsthand in the principal's office.
Okay, so how about this? Again, it's PG rated.
Okay.
I get a teacher comes into my office and says, how or what do I need to do about this particular student? So the scenario was that it's a room full of girls, actually. I don't know what the class was. I can't remember, social studies or whatever. Anyway, the teacher comes into my office and says, okay, here's the scenario. I've got these girls in there, and then I've got the one girl, and she's kind of the loner in this bunch. And the girls in the clique, if you will, the cheerleader girls are giving her a ration of grief. And finally, she just loses it. And there was some kind of issues about hygiene or something. And the high school girls are giving her this trouble. And finally, the outsider goes, "I'll tell you what, you bees. How many of you wash your hands in the bathroom when you go to the restroom?" And they look at her, and they, "Well, of course we wash our hands. We're cheerleaders." And he goes, "Well, I've been urinating in the soap dish all year long. How do you like those apples?" I go, "I'm gonna what? You want me to? You call her mother. I'm not going to do that." I said, and I asked her, I said, "Did any of the parents call you?" And she goes, "No, not yet." I said, "Well, don't you call them. And if they don't call you, do not kick that mound of ants over. Move on like it never happened."
Wow.
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
I bet you have stories for years that you can make videos on. I mean,
So yeah, that's what you get at school.
that's wild.
Can we share just a view of his YouTube page? Just show people what they should look for here.
Yes.
Do you have that pulled up? Can you do a share?
I can. Let me pull that off, and I will do this. Boop. Share screen.
Well, I hope your listeners don't think I came on here just to get promoted. I don't care less about the promotion. I'm just glad to have something to do on Thursday night.
No, you're good. No, it's been on our own free will, primarily Scott's. This is his channel and it's his show. It's not even relevant during the day show, but when he promotes a podcast, he talks about it. So it's been great. But for those that are interested that are not yet subscribed, Tales from the Principal's Office, this is Roy. If you haven't seen it yet, I would click one and kind of show you, but an ad would pop up. They're animated videos, which are fantastically done. And he narrates it with his voice, and they're fun and they're true stories and tales from his office and experiences that he's had. So if you want to check him out, please do. Give him a like, give him a subscribe, and big thank you to you, Roy, for being here on the show. I've got, with that, 2 quick things for you. First and foremost is you're newly retired. YouTube is a hobby. It keeps you busy.
Right.
Not full time. What's next? What's next for you?
Well, it's weird. My new full-time gig seems to be trying to figure out Medicare, Social Security, my pension.
You want part C, you want part B.
What the insurance looks like. Am I going to have a knee replaced? I can
have someone call you.
Yeah,
if you want. I get calls on that constantly.
I get. I think I've just about got it figured out. When I first retired a couple of months ago, my wife didn't even want to be around me because I couldn't figure it out. It was making me nuts, and that's my full-time gig. And now I've sort of come to grips with that, and the anxiety of that particular situation is dissipated. I'm just, I'm happy to do something. I'm going to find a job. I'm working part-time at this computer place and just doing some stuff for them, but I don't know. Life is good.
Maybe teaching typing, and you'll go back full circle.
Teaching type with just thumbs.
Yeah. That's all you need nowadays. I have to ask you this, but I can't let you go. Thomas has bragged about his fishing prowess. That he's quite the fisherman. I have a ruler handy. Could you
I've had that on my mind, and I didn't want to narc him out because he is a good friend of mine and all, and I do walk by his house occasionally, and I don't want to have him cast aspersions on me because I've the fact of the matter is I've never seen him catch a fish. So there it is. I'm just telling you. I've never witnessed it. Now I know for a fact that he's seen me catch at least one, but I can't reciprocate that. It may just be a fable.
Not for
like
lack of
Aesop.
trying, not for
Yeah.
lack of trying, but
Well, payback is I was going to try to tee up a softball for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to try to tee up a softball for you to give a special shout out, but instead I'm just going to give a shout out to your lovely wife. Hi, Jeannie, that's watching.
Jeannie, hello. Thanks for letting us steal Roy tonight. We're
Is she
excited
watching
to get
tonight?
to him.
She is watching, and then she was quick to say that she wanted to be able to watch the repeat. And I said, she goes, "Can I watch a recording too?" I said, "Yeah, you can watch as many times as you like."
Oh,
We
you can
encourage
edit
that.
it. That's
We
perfect.
encourage
That's
3,
right.
4, 5 times
Yeah.
comment each time.
So yeah, she's going to be a fan.
Well, Roy, I'm excited for you. I'm excited that you've got something you put a lot of time and effort in as far as your profession, and that you're sharing that with people that don't get to see what that is, and you're doing it through a medium that I love. If there's anything I could do to help, as far as on the technical side, I'm a bit of a nerd, but we're excited, and I think your channel's going to do great. We'll keep plugging it when we can, and maybe invite you on the podcast again, keep updates, especially if Weatherwatch catches a fish, because I'm going to need some sort of verification. It's not that I don't believe him. Yeah, we'll need some verification.
Well, I hear squealing coming from the other room. She's going, "I'm watching now. I'm watching now."
Yeah, we do have a couple teachers in chat. I got corrected on my English just this morning by Red Pen. And with a name like Red Pen, you can figure that she's done a lot of correcting papers. So
You do. But awesome. Roy, thank you so much for giving us your time. Although I know you're retired, you've got other things going on. And thank you to Jeannie for letting us steal you and joining the show. It's been a blast. We've been pumping you up, so to speak, throughout the last week and a half. And at least from my end, it didn't disappoint. This was a fun show, fun conversation, your stories. And I definitely would love to have you back again, and we can expand on other things.
Yeah, I'm absolutely. I got nothing but time.
it's awesome. I'm excited. Thank you so much. Appreciate you making yourself available, and we'll be talking soon, I'm sure.
Look forward to it.
Thomas,
Scott,
you're muted.
are you live?
There you go.
Did you
I
mute
can
me?
hear you now.
You muted me?
Maybe it was accidental if I did. I'm sorry.
I was thanking everyone for being here on a Thursday night. Get ready for Friday. Scott, are you live on your channel again tomorrow? And if so, what time?
We are probably going to do, I keep saying 8:45 and then I come on at 9:15. So let's do 9. We'll do a compromise. We're still following the David Wolf trial out of Tennessee. Still continue to have a full day today. So we're going to try to catch up on most of that. I think they're going to wrap tomorrow. So we'll see if
Heavenly Wood.
it's a good one.
All right.
6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 on this.
The vote has
I
been
liked
cast.
it initially, but not anymore. And it makes my green screen look weird when I do this. Look. Whoa,
All right.
it's crazy.
Thank you again to everyone. Once again, tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. All right. Here on the Recovered Ag channel, we'll pick up the Judge Wolf trial. Again, everyone have a great night. Thanks so much for watching. Roy, thank you again for being a guest.
Thanks, Roy.
All
See
right.
y'all
Thank
tomorrow.
you, guys. I enjoyed it.
All righty.
We'll see you.
Bye all.